I've got my tackle box and my fishing pole here today, so I guess you know what I'll be doing next. Fishing with my dad's old gear takes me back to so many precious moments. To a lake and a cottage in northern Illinois, to summer afternoons with my cousins next door, catching bluegill, catfish, bullhead, and carp with cane poles. There were adventures in the Canadian boundary waters with a dear old friend in ministry and our 2 youth groups when I served a little church up in Wisconsin. And there were sunny days in central Minnesota just after I'd gotten married with a loving congregation, many of whom enjoyed fishing. And there have been moments of triumph and defeat at this very pond in western Nebraska with my own children when they were young. Fishing, I guess, is one of those things that a person just goes back to. For the outdoors, for the solace, for the memories and fresh encounters, sometimes for the fishing itself, and sometimes just to regroup. Maybe it was something like that for Peter and his companions, as we read in the Gospel of John, chapter 21. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. "I'm going out to fish," Simon Peter told them. And they said, "We'll go with you." So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, "Friends, haven't you any fish?" "No," they answered. He said, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, "It is the Lord," he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there, with fish on it, and some bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. What a precious day that turned out to be. Clearly, John never forgot it. Their lives had been turned upside down, from fishermen to disciples of Jesus, to watching helplessly as he was crucified, to being overjoyed at his resurrection. But what did it all mean, and what would it all mean for them? The world had suddenly changed, and the disciples, they were still trying to catch up, get their heads around it. So they went back to something they knew, climbed back in the boat, and spent a fruitless night on the water, when there on the shore was a stranger they'd met before, calling them to throw their nets on the other side just as he'd done once before, causing them to haul a catch like they'd never seen. John was the first to remember, and Peter was quick to respond. It was Jesus. Jesus calling them all over again, starting back at square one, meeting them where they were, sitting down to breakfast, and in the verses that follow, taking a little walk by the seashore with Peter, charting the road ahead. Sometimes the Lord takes us back to square one as well, doesn't he? To people and places and things of our past, preparing us through moments of shake-up and turbulence and change for whatever it is that he holds in his plan next for us. It may not all be fun, and there's no promise that it will be easy. But the good news is that through whatever times of turbulence and change, uncertainty and unrest we may pass, and certainly this is just such a time, nevertheless, the Lord who met them at the shore that day long ago is the Lord who meets us still, goes before us, has a plan for us, and will guide us every step of the way. Are we listening for his call? Are we ready to take the next step? He meets us where we are, but will we go with him where he leads? How about taking some time with Jesus by the seashore today? How about a little breakfast with an open Bible and a pen in hand to jot down what he is pointing out to you, to underline what God is highlighting for you? Do you trust him? Are you ready to take the next step? Are you willing to wait on him to lead you?